to talk about what it means to call the sacred space card.
Right.
Yeah, we mentioned it a little bit earlier on. So typically you got all those lists of reasons of when you need it, why you might need it, when to call in sacred space. Well, how do you do that? Like, what does that mean to call in sacred space, or to call? We call it the pull the sacred space card, literally like play.
And it came from, I'm a big soccer fan, or football, like the international football, and there's yellow cards and green cards. And when someone gets a card, that means, the game stops, everybody pauses. There's something that's happening.
Like timeout, offside.
The sacred space card. Sierra and I literally will go like this.
We hold it up.
We're like,
hey,
you
could actually
card.
make one.
A little square card.
You could have one.
You could have one with a big frown on it or a smile on it.
So what does calling the sacred space card mean? So it means, as Rono just sort of articulated in his sports metaphor, it means that you must stop the conversation immediately. And usually what's happening is you're walking out the door, you're about to go to your kid's graduation or somebody's party, or you're about to get on Zoom or do a meeting, or whatever's happening is happening. And all of a sudden something erupts and shit goes sideways and you find yourself in an argument. And all of a sudden you're like, there is no way we can, if we go down this road right now, we're not going to that event. We're not getting on that camera. Like, we cannot keep going. There's no space right now to take this all the way through.
Anyone relate? Anybody over there? Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's just about everybody.
Right. So yeah. So that's a perfect moment to be like, oh, sacred space. I'm pulling the sacred space card. And then the other piece too is oftentimes when it gets so heightened and so heated, and that one of you needs to cool down, or both of you needs to cool down. Like, you're not going to go, even if you have the space, you're not going anywhere. You're not getting into anything, but you both are just like, one or both you're just looping and looping and looping. Sacred space.
Hey babe, this is a sacred space card.
Conversation.
Hey, sacred space.
Yeah.
It can look like that. I'm giving you examples of sometimes how it looks when I do it. It's like, you don't have anything more, and it might just look like that.
Yeah. So however you decide that card and agree upon it in advance, how you're going to do it, whenever that card is called or pulled or played, it means that you must both immediately, and this is kind of part of the rules, immediately stop the conversation, stop the argument. Nobody's going to get that last word in. Like, really, don't. Just like zip it, stop. Sacred space. Oh, okay. The card has been played. Mum's the word.
Yeah, we say put your pro switch on, put your big girl boy in panties on, and like, it's like, okay, like, I love this person. I'm super heated right now, but I'm not going to put in that last jab. I'm going to exercise my ability to be an adult and have awareness and understanding of my own emotions and my own state of being. And I'm not going to take that extra thing. This is a big one, and I'm being firm on this one because it's super hard. It was super hard for me, especially when I'm right. Yeah. Especially when I'm right. It's like, that's when you have to zip it doubly much.
Or you're somebody, and I know there's a few of us, or maybe more than a few of us, that really needs to solve it right now. It really needs to be solved right now, right? So if it can be solved right now, you don't need sacred space. Like, just stop and solve it. But if you know it's not going to be solved right now because of the few things I just said, and then anything else you might know, that's not going to be solved right now, sacred space. Now, here is also the big key. And I just have to say, I taught this to one of my sisters in her relationship, and she somehow missed this part. So listen up. This is a really important part. And I laughed because she was like, oh, my husband loves it when he loves to call the sacred space card. And I was like, oh, wow, that's great. He really loves it. So you've been resolving things? She's like, no, he just thinks that it means that we can stop the argument and we don't have to solve it. Nope.
That's not.
It's like shut my wife up card. No. No, the key is that when the sacred spaces card or pulled, when the card is played, when the card is pulled, it means that you both also agree, beyond zipping it, that you will absolutely, no questions, no qualms about it, no matter what, even if it has to be in a week from now, even if it has to be in an hour from now, a day from now, whatever it is, whatever's going on, you will, no matter what, both commit 100%, not even just the person who pulled the card, both of you, it takes two to tango, it takes two to commit to this, you will both commit to scheduling your sacred space. You will make it happen. It will happen. If it does not happen, this tool becomes just another noisy, non-supportive thing.
Yeah. And here's a key thing too. in the past, Sierra and I would pull a sacred space card, and then we'd forget what it was that we were having the challenge around.
That's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing until it comes up again,
yeah, exactly.
and then we forget, and then again, and we forget. And so I recommend like texting it to each other, writing it down. When we're coaching and working with clients, we make them text the things down so that way they have an actual record
this
of
is what
the
we're
thing.
going to connect on Sacred Space about.
And so that way you know to come back to it, because it's super easy. Oh, the kids, the this, the that, and everything, and you forget it. So again, the agreement here, and you can make this agreement now, or you can come back to it in a little bit. But like, hey, are we committed to having a sacred space conversation? I know you don't know fully what it is yet, but like, if one of us pulls this card, we agree to, stop immediately and not put more jabs in, and
that we will both commit.
We will
100% to getting it scheduled, even if it takes you a day to cool off. You're going to come back and schedule it. You don't have to stop and schedule it right that moment. I wouldn't recommend that.
Fine, I'll schedule it right now.
Yeah, no. If you have the space, you could be, are we available for sacred space? And if you're available, but if you're both heated or one of you's heated, somebody's got to cool down, and that just gets us to the rules.
Yeah. And sometimes we're heated in the moment, and we just both take 15 minutes for ourselves, and we're able to actually come back to the table. That's fine. It just takes a minute. Okay. So here are the rules. They're also on page 11, I think it is. Page 11 of your play sheet. So we already said this. You can totally mess this up if you're not committed to it. That's why we're super strict.
Warning, do not mess this up. Yeah. Do not stop, do not skip any steps. Do this, do it all the way through.
If you do it, then it really, really works. Okay. So both parties must agree to pause the current conversation, as we already mentioned, and save any negative emotions or conflicts or later resolutions for sacred space.
And it's called sacred for a reason. And space for a reason.
So once sacred space is requested, both partners should ensure that the process takes place, as Sierra just said. So we're making sure that it happens.
Cool off. I mentioned that.
If it's necessary to cool off, and come with an open heart. If you don't know what it means to come with an open heart, we've got a lot of other great salons that you can watch that talk about how to have an open heart and to come
how to self-regulate.
How to self-regulate.
We've got some good ones in the library.
Okay. Again, if you're unable to immediately schedule this sacred space, totally fine. Reconnect in 24 hours to prioritize setting a time for it. So within 24 hours of the miss or the challenge,
or the card being played,
you will be scheduling this for X time. It doesn't have to be within 24 hours, but within 24 hours, you have to schedule it.
Yeah.
It's important to schedule and prioritize sacred space to understand and resolve the underlying issues. Avoid burying the conflicts, as I just said, or ignoring them or forgetting them, because they just build and build and build. I forget the universal law of things, but the more you just leave something and it keeps coming away, it wears down slowly over time, or it builds up slowly over time. So just be mindful of that.
Mm-hmm.
And
this one's big.
Yeah.
This one's big. Sacred space and its contents should never, and I mean never, ever, ever be used against your partner under any circumstances. So what happens in sacred space does not get used as ammunition, does not get weaponized outside of sacred space.
Well, you said that, or you this, or
no. Which then leads to confidentiality is key in sacred space. So whatever is shared in sacred space, just like we do in Eden here, it's confidential. You're not going to go blabbering it to your best friend or your parents or even your kids. Like that is, we hold it
your
so
mother,
sacred.
Yeah,
we hold it so sacred so that you can let your nervous systems relax. You can be available for all of the 7 elements of a connected conversation. Like it takes something. This is a real maturation of a relationship dynamic that this allows for the trust and the vulnerability and the ability to dig deeper underneath to get to the root cause so that you can stop having the ongoing challenges and issues and utilize this tool to actually see progress, like major progress. But you have to follow these rules.
Yeah.
We're going to cover in a little bit how in the conducting sacred space, there's a few more rules. Once you're in sacred space, there's a few that we just covered. There's going to be a few more. So
great. All right.
We're going to go step by step now from asking to setting to we're just going to give you the steps, and it's all in your playbook. It's all written out for you. You don't even have to write it. It's there when you forget. We're just going to run through it.
So page 12.
We
So
covered
again,
a lot of this
first one
already.
is asked for sacred space. That's the first one. Hey, this is a sacred space conversation. It's best if you can say it nicely, but if you can't, that's okay too, because just the sheer act of asking for it in whatever state you're in
shows commitment and
the
willingness.
commitment.
Yeah.
Exactly. The next one is, again, you're going to set the time for sacred space. Sierra and I really like to do this either on Sunday nights or Monday mornings. And we use sacred space as an opportunity to also set up our week for success. But we use it as a connecting point to just like, hey, how was the week? How was this? How are you doing? What are you looking forward to? And then is there anything unresolved? Is there anything that we need to talk about? When it's a regular practice, then it becomes something that you don't have to be pulling cards. But when it wasn't a regular practice for us, it was a pulling card type of thing. And the game, it was a wild game. Lots of referees were needed, and it took a while for us to get here.
Yeah, and I want to say that it could take anywhere from 30 minutes up to 2 or 3 hours. So depending on the level of what happened that had you or both of you decide that you needed a sacred space moment, make the space for it. And if you are just so busy and so crazy, you can do sacred space in various increments. You can come back, you can get to a point, complete, hold, get to the next sacred space. So however that works, know that if you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to use sacred space, it's going to take us 3 hours. I don't have 3 hours in a day. Okay, then schedule 30 minutes, see how it goes, and then schedule the next one before you leave sacred space.
What's really beautiful about this too, I want to mention is, I'm assuming that everyone here is in a committed relationship with someone that they love and care about. That's the assumption I have. And one of the biggest hurdles and ruinings of relationships downfalls is putting your relationship on the chopping block, or pulling your love from someone because you're hurt or wounded, or removing the connection.
Stonewalling.
It's the biggest thing that causes like long-term trauma and hurt and things that are hard to resolve. By having this commitment of coming together in the sacred space conversation and knowing that your partner's going to meet you there, and knowing that you're going to do everything you can, even if it's clenching your teeth to not say something, like that's commitment, and it heals so much just from the practice of doing it. And so I can't emphasize this enough. So you're going to choose a place to meet. So Sierra and I have had many homes over the years, and depending on where we live, we like to have minimally a 3-bedroom place for us, because one of the rooms in our 3-bedroom house is specifically reserved for sacred space type conversations, connecting, yoga, like visioning in our body. Like we make a room dedicated to our love, and it's not for sleeping. It's just for like, how do we connect? How do we love ourselves? How do we love our bodies? How do we love each other in this room? And so it can be,
it's okay if you don't have something like that. It could be a porch, a home office.
It could be 2 pillows that you put down on a
so simple. Don't overcomplicate.
But we just found that worked really well for us.
Guest room, a den.
Yep. Anything like that. So choose the place to meet. And it's helpful to have it be the same time, similar to meditation, where they recommend removing as many oral things and visual things, that cues that pull you out of the ability to stay present. Similarly, you want to choose a space that you can come back to over and over again to build the practice, to build the habit, so that when those 2 pillows get put down on the floor and that candle gets lit, that's when you both know, hey, this is sacred space. It invokes something. It invokes all of us. That's what I was going to say before. We're all healing this collective wound that every single one of us has, that attempts to get into relationship, that has the audacity to love someone else. And we're healing not just our own traumas, but our parents' traumas, their parents' traumas, and so on and so forth and so forth. And there's a great salon called Lineage that you can watch, that's all about how much we don't have any new thoughts, like barely any, if you actually look at neuroscience. So this is about healing not just your stuff, but healing all of that stuff. And sacred space is a beautiful way to get to that. So you're going to meet in that sacred space.
Yeah, you're going to choose a place to
Yep.
meet, even if it means just lighting a candle wherever you are, but just be intentional. This is intentional practice. All right, then you're actually going to meet. this is where the rubber meets the road. You're going to meet in sacred space at the designated time in the designated spot for the designated amount. You are going to walk into that space and meet and do what we're about to share with you to conduct sacred space. And
you're not going to be late.
Yeah, it's imperative. This is now a trust building activity. So you both need to show up on time, ready to engage in this process. If either of you fail to do so, it could have a huge impact on your ability to become neutral or loving or trust each other during this process, especially if any of you have some sort of, issue with your partner not showing up on time or, whatever the case may be. It's really important that you both, again, pull up your big girl and big boy and big infinite beans panties and actually show up on time for the commitment that you made. Again, this is a really profound practice when you make these kinds of commitments. And so then consider when you're scheduling sacred space and when you're scheduling the time, and only make a commitment to the time that will actually work for both of you. Don't bend on that one. I know you'll feel like, oh, I want to get this, and it's important. We were supposed to schedule it in 24 hours. No, yes, schedule in 24 hours, but make sure it's a time. And if for some reason that time all of a sudden doesn't work because you had a rough day at work and you're supposed to do sacred space that night, either you do something to make sure that you can get resource and you communicate that with your partner and then you still meet, but you push it back, or you communicate, I cannot show up fully to this because of XYZ. I'm fully committed.
It's important to me.
It's important to me. It's really important to me. We need to shift the time so I can be fully in integrity with what we agreed upon to show up. And I want to say a little sneak peek ahead in your playbooks. There is an actual contract that has all of these rules and agreements that we're going to invite you as your home play to read through, sign, hang up on your wall if you need to, so that you both know what you're agreeing to when you play this card, when you use this process, when you step into this sacred space, and that there's no question whatsoever. You can't play any of your squirrely tactics and point the finger and get caught in your old pattern. It's there, it's clear, you both agreed, you both signed, so that is there for you to use. Anyways. Yay!
That's good. So I know we're being very, very serious.
This is probably the most serious ever. This is a serious process.
But it really is. But it's like, without this process, Sierra and I would not be here. We also needed a lot of friends and support.
We needed a community like this that we built. Hey, thanks everybody.
How's this landing for everybody right now? Like kind of like a little bit, like really good, or kind of okay, good, awesome, yay, good. Okay, good. Sometimes it's hard to tell because everyone's so serious.
We're serious. You're serious. It's all very serious. We take relationships serious.
Okay,
so get to have fun.
So that was just getting to having sacred space. If you get there, that's like half the battle. So you've made it. So here's the essential guidelines too, and this is on, I believe it's on page 13. No, page 14. We're already down there. This is the guidelines, and we had rules here, but I changed it to guidelines because it's just encouraged to follow this. But everyone has the right to their feelings. Okay.
This is now you're in it. Now that
you're in it.
Here's the playground for being in sacred space.
You have the right to your feelings. You have the right to express yourself, and both ways. So if I'm like off the handle and I'm really expressing myself, and Sierra's maybe having a hard time with that, that's okay for her to have a hard time with it. It's okay for me to be off the handle. It's okay to have that switch to reversed. And it's okay to speak up for you, like, hey, babe, I'm having a real hard time with the energy right now. I want to stay present with you and be here, but I'm noticing that I'm starting to get up. Can we take a few breaths together and then continue? Like, it's all about being responsible for like personal responsibility. That's why that's in here, this salon. But like, you have the right to your feelings, and they're encouraged in sacred space, because if they keep getting bottled up, it's just going to keep coming up out there. And so in this safe sacred container, you have an opportunity to do with it.
Now you're going to want to speak in I, not you statements. I think a lot of us already probably know this, but in practice, it can be a bit tricky. It's so easy, again, point the finger. So instead of saying, you made me feel X when you said Y, you're going to say something more like, when you said Y, I was aware that I felt X. right? And we're going to give you a very specific tool on this. We keep teasing it up, but we're excited
I
for
actually
it.
wanted to change that one.
Oh, you did?
When I heard, I didn't change it.
You didn't change it in the script.
Oh,
okay, in the playbook. Sorry, okay.
Because there's a U in
when
there.
I heard, oh, thank you. Oh, good catch, Rono.
Yes.
I look at I U'd on my not Uing.
Totally.
Oh my goodness.
That's how easy it is.
That's the guide. We got to update in the other guide.
Totally,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Yeah. When I heard you say,
no, when I heard
Y,
when I heard Y,
I was aware that I felt X.
Yep.
Okay.
So it's slightly different. Did you hear that? When I heard you say Y, it's already accusative. But when I heard Y, it doesn't matter who said it. When I heard Y, I felt this way. It's so different from then. When you said this, you made me feel this way.
And be mindful and cautious of storytelling and dramatization. So do your best to discuss only facts and feelings.
Yeah. In a moment, we're going to go through a process, and we'll be bringing Miriam up, and we'll get into the feeling states and all of these different aspects of it. So that way you can use these I statements and be mindful of the storytelling. And there's some cues so that you know what it is.
Yeah. You're going to want to beware and refrain from using always and nevers language.
Superlatives are not so super.
No, Rono's been calling me on that. I've been slipping into always. You always do this and always do that. And it's not fun for anybody because that's not true. It's not always happening. It might happen often. It might be your perspective, but it's not always. Nothing's ever, always, never, anything.
Yeah, the sun might always rise so far, but we don't know that. And so
I guess you got me.
Yeah, but hey, but
when it comes to human behavior, not so much.
Not so much. So here's a big one.
Big one.
Avoid, or we say no yelling, screaming, accusations, or threats. And so if it escalates to the point where there is yelling and screaming and all of those types of things, that means that there needs to be a pause. Everyone needs to go in their corners, the timeout corner, and there needs to, someone's not resourced. And if this is a sticky situation that you've been over and over again, that means if you're the one that's got your energy rising up, that means you're the one with the issue. And if both of you have the energy rising up, that means both of you have the thing inside of you. If you're just cool and calm and you're just like, okay, wow, this is happening. Wow, this is intense. That means that you're resourced, you're available, you're present, you're able to work through this conversation, and you can hold your partner if they're the one that's having the challenge and resolve it. But if either one of you is getting heightened, if you're heightened, that means it's in you. It's not about them. Mm-hmm. It's not about them pushing the button or them having the trigger or them having anything. It's what's going on inside you.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, another big thing. You must be sober, conscious. So like awake and aware.
Yeah.
And definitely not overly tired for sacred space.
Alcohol, absolutely not.
No.
It'll wreck it every time.
Oh my God. Every major fight Rono and I have ever gotten into has been as
mostly, yeah. Almost all of them.
Yeah. We've been looking at this because we've recently given a rest on our drinking habits. And some of our most gnarly breakdowns have been alcohol related. And so that is alcohol, anything, any substance, any mind altering thing is not your friend when it comes to heart to heart.
Presence.
Yeah, we need presence. So that's really important. And I know it might be hard because maybe you think you can articulate yourself better under a certain substance or whatnot, but this is where you get to practice really being with what is and being with what is with each other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the last few here is that no one gets to leave sacred space until both parties have come to an understanding. Now, as we mentioned, you may not be able to get to that in each session. And so the understanding can be like, hey, we haven't taken this all the way through yet. There's still some things here, but it's getting late, or if we've got to move on to something else. When's the next time that we can come back and check on this? And we've had some sacred space conversations that have taken years to take it all the way through, but it hasn't blown up our relationship because we've made the commitment to have the conversation in a sacred space versus just randomly out in the world, because every time we tried, it would blow up. And so it might take a while. Like we actually found a conversation 5 years ago that was in our relationship for 10 years, and we've been together 15 years. And it took us 10 years to even figure out that this was the issue. And we've been working with this thing for the last 5 years. And it's not resolved, but it's like, it feels like
We're on
alive
common
again.
ground,
Yeah, we're on
yeah.
common ground. We're like connecting on it. And it was in our relationship the whole time, and it caused so much challenge for one another. And we're now able to like work with it because we actually can see it, and it's not this thing that just smacks us across the head and then we don't even know what's going on.
And then lastly,
so both parties come to understanding, and that they agree that they're going to take it all the way through. And then lastly
is that, again, even if you haven't been able to take it all the way through and you need another sacred space, that you could get to a point where you can embrace in some way, or bow at least, or like recognize, just find some sort of loving, connected gesture that has you feel like, okay, we can go to the next, between now and whenever the next sacred space is needed. If it's not resolved, if it is resolved, awesome, hug it out, love it out, high five it, do the things. But if you're not quite there yet, but you get to a place where you can both be like, all right, you know what? I know we're going to talk about this again. I know we're going to go to another sacred space. Okay, I can take a moment to acknowledge and feel connected. And that's really important, so you don't leave sacred space with sort of these gaping emotional wounds or anything that's going to have you just be so pissed off between then and now. The whole idea is that something loosens, something can get closer to resolution, or ultimately fully resolved. Again, although it might take a few bouts, or having an ongoing practice keeps the street clean.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but if we're not good, it consumes a lot of my energy throughout the day, and I'm not as focused on the other tasks that are required of me to exist in this world. And so it's important to making sure that every time there's a sacred space that things are closed, so that it's like, hey, we're on the same team here. We love each other. We're having an issue around this thing, but that doesn't mean I can't love you, even though we're having this challenge right now. And that's what the sacred space process is about.